Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. We're going to work on SaturnCI as we have been so often lately. I'll share my screen and get us going here. Okay. Let me remind myself where we left off. So we were working on the test output streaming. We had gotten log streaming working to a certain extent. The way that was working was the log streaming was coming through, and I think you remember this, Sanjeet, where the new lines would show up, but you had to like scroll each time new lines showed up. And that's still
Yep.
the way it works, and that's
hmm
fine. Because before that, I'm interested in getting the test output streaming working. So for anybody who's not familiar, these are the system logs, just kind of the raw output of the machine, and this is the actual test output of your tests that run. So let's see. Um, it looks to me like we had a failing test here. So let's run that test. Okay. So expected to find new test output content, but we didn't. Okay. And I'm guessing, well, I actually don't know why that is, but let's check. Let's look at the controller that handles the system log output. And now let's look at the analogous controller for test output. Okay, so as you can see, the system logs controller has a turbo stream broadcast, but the test output controller does not. So let's see what happens if we put it there. And sorry, I just got distracted because I see this is different, but I don't know that it actually needs to be, but I don't want to get distracted by that right now. Okay, so here, everywhere we see system logs, we'll of course want to change that to test output. Okay,
Yep.
let's see what happens when we run our test. Okay, still fails. That's not shocking. Um, let's look at the build show page. No, sorry, the job show page. Okay, so we have our build details content container, build details content current tab name. Okay, so one would think that that would work, but for some reason it is not. Oh, okay. Here's something. Turbo stream from blah 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 system logs. Let's add test output. Let's see what happens now. Okay, that passes. Um, Obviously we have quite a bit of duplication here. So I don't want to commit this to main. I'm going to do this. I'm going to check out a new branch called test output streaming. Oh, a branch with that name already exists. I'm going to delete it. Okay, get test output streaming ostensibly working. Okay, and that failed because there's already a different branch. Do a force push. Okay, and if we're able to catch it, we might actually see the test output streaming. But let's see. While we're waiting for that, um, let's maybe clean up some of this duplication. So let's start by looking at the tests. Hey, Sahil.
Hello.
Welcome. So just a real quick
Oh,
catch you up, Sahil. Um, we have presumably gotten the test output working, which I think last time we were working just on the system logs. Now we're working on the test output. Got that working, but the code is kind of duplicative. So now I'm going to go back and address that duplication.
right.
Okay, so I'm going to go to system logs controller, and then I'll go to the test output controller. Okay, and you can see that this all here is quite duplicative. The first thing I think I want to
Mm,
address is this head OK thing. I think this respond to format thing is actually not needed. So let me see. If I run this test, will it pass? By the way, I'm going to check on the test run. Okay, the job machine's ready. The repository has been cloned. Test should start running fairly soon. Okay, so this change here apparently didn't negatively affect anything, so I'll commit that. Okay, okay, system logs controller and test output controller. And by the way, the great thing about the way this heretical way that I organize my test suite, you might notice that it's not spec system streaming, it's spec streaming system. I organize my test suite by domain concept rather than by test type. Or more precisely, domain concept is my primary dimension that I organize my test suite directories by, and the test type is secondary. Almost everybody does it the other way around, but I think that makes very little sense actually. And the nice thing about doing it this way is I can just say, let me run all my tests for streaming. I think that's a much more common need than saying like, let me run all my model specs or all my system specs or something like that. So I'm going to be doing that repeatedly. I'll just run all the tests for streaming.
I
Anyway,
think
mhm.
people do use something called tags that you can do with the. So, for example, you can do spec, system, and then streaming. And in the test, you can mention that what test they are, and then you can run bundle exe spec r spec with the tags, which will also run pretty much the same thing that you will run streaming tagged test across like system unit and whatnot. But I think this is also nice way to just go ahead with that, because now if you want to run all the system tests, then you have to do in every folder system test.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. In practice, I see very few people do that. The downside to that in my mind is that then you have to remember to tag each test. Whereas
Yes.
if you put it in a directory, you can't forget to do that because you do have to put it somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, so that's my preference. Although I get what you're saying about the tags, that could work too.
And I think I'm not sure. Maybe second thing is that, like for example, I use VS Code, and VS Code has this jump to test, which basically creates a test for me in the same exact way. So it would be spec model user rspec.rb. And I think most of the configurations which are out there, they are based on that you will have not the domain namespace test, but rather the pattern that everybody has, but I mean,
Right.
whatever works works.
Yeah. Yeah, and my Vim plugin that I use has a similar capability where you're on a file and you can open the test for that file, but it depends on a convention that I don't use. So unfortunately, that's one downside of my convention. Okay, so these two controllers are extremely duplicative. Um, and I'm not going to follow the rule of three where you wait for something to be duplicated three times and then you dry it up because I think that makes no sense. Um, the risk of duplication is that you have two things that need to be kept in sync. You know, it's one piece of behavior expressed multiple times in the code, and if you change the behavior of one, it logically follows that the other should change. But if you accidentally change one but not the other, then you've introduced a bug. That's one of the main costs of duplication. And it has nothing to do with whether it appears two times or three times or 10 times or whatever. It's the question is how much does this particular instance of duplication cost? Um, and in this case, I can tell that this duplication is just really dumb because it's almost the exact same. So I want to dry this up somehow. That's an easy decision, but what's harder is how. How do we want to dry this up? So one thing that seems maybe relatively easy is the TurboStream's broadcast. So one thing that I like to do when I'm deduplicating something is first make the two things exactly the same and then make them deduplicated. So here the things that are different are where it says system logs and where it says test output. So let's do this. Maybe we can say current tab name equals system logs. I don't know if I'm going to want that name, current tab name. Maybe I want something else, but I
I
can't think
would
of
say
anything different for now. What's that?
I would say probably just a tab name because you don't have to be current.
Oh, I'm just using that because it matches this. Um, but sorry, Sahil, what was your argument for just calling it tab name instead of current tab name?
Because in the context of that controller, there's no other tab name. It's basically like you have a different controller which is calling itself system logs. Actually, if you want to, you can go ahead and create like a constant which says tab name is system logs because that's what would be going to be the case for that particular controller. So you don't have to ever change that.
That's a great point.
It's not something which keeps on changing because by current, I would assume this is something which changes and having this tab name, it just says, okay, it's always this tab for this controller.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so here I'm just gonna go system logs tab name. Okay, and we'll see if my tests still pass. Oh, and I keep trying to catch this while it's running, but my test suite is so short that it's hard to catch it. And plus I get distracted. So I'm gonna rerun that again and you know what? I'll set my phone timer for like 2 minutes and then maybe I can catch it. Okay. All right, so my tests still pass. So what if I do the same thing in my other controller? But of course, the tab name here is test outputs. Run my tests. And that causes a failure. Okay, there's a missing partial jobs test outputs. Interesting. What did I have before? Oh, it's called test output. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Okay. So that apparently still works. I'm going to commit that. Oh, by the way, can you guys see my font okay? Should I make it bigger?
Yeah, I struggled a bit, like so. Yeah, I worked it out, on my side. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I usually have it bigger, but I forgot this time. Okay. Actually, I guess I don't need to have these tests open. Okay, I'm going to open system logs controller and test output controller. Okay, this font looks weird. There we go. That's maybe a little bit better. Okay, so now everything is very similar. And so maybe we can abstract this to somewhere. Oh, my timer just went off, so I'm gonna check over here. Let's see how our events are doing. Okay, pre-script started. All right, I'm gonna just have us sit here so we don't miss this. And by the way, while we're just sitting here, we can talk about how we're gonna unify this controller. So we have those two controllers that are almost identical. Um, what I've seen done sometimes is like having a parent controller that those both inherit from, but I don't want to do that. Oh, and here comes the test output. Um, I don't want to I don't want to have a parent controller that they both inherit from. Sorry, I'm distracted by this test output. Well, now we can see with our own eyes that this is working. That is really nice to see. Okay, so I don't want to have a parent controller that these inherit from because then it becomes like, I'm having a hard time explaining why I don't want to do that. But it creates very tight coupling between a parent and a child, and I've just had a lot of problems with that in the past. What I think I want to do is I want to have some separate entity. So let's see. Let's ask this question. What kind of API would we want? Maybe we could be like, actually, okay, so maybe we can keep this, but it's like the arguments that we pass get conjured up from somewhere. So, okay, actually, let's do this. This is just like temporary. I assume that that will still work. It doesn't. Let's see why. Okay, I have some kind of formatting error. Job slash, huh. Oh yeah, I see. The first argument here, this is all a hash, but this first thing is not. Okay. Um, Let me undo that. Let me take this a little bit slower here. Okay, what is this first thing here? Job ID, tab name. All right. So I think that's the turbo stream name. And also, like, this has to match this, but that's kind of a hard to notice dependency. So maybe we can do something about that. Um, First, maybe let's just do this. Turbo stream name equals this. Okay, so I'll run my tests and we'll see if that passes. Okay. Um, and I do actually think I want to connect that to this. So how could that happen? So this is the test output create controller. So this controller gets hit by the API and it just returns an okay. This this controller action does not render a view. The view comes from, whoops, here. Okay. So it's like each jobs tab has its own turbo stream. Ooh, okay, more. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm actually going to undo this. We can, how about we say this? Log stream equals log stream.new. This log stream class is just something I'm making up right now. We could say that this is a log stream, this is a log stream. And actually, log stream is overly specific. It's really an output stream. We stream the test output and we stream the system logs. Or would you say that this is a log? No, that's just output, right? All logging is output, but not all output is logging. Does that seem true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to say output stream.new. Yeah. Okay. And this particular output stream is for this certain job and this certain tab. Okay. And if I run the test, it'll of course fail because there's no such thing as output stream. Yeah. An initialized constant, blah, 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 output stream. Okay. So I'm going to create a new namespace called streaming. I'll do app model streaming output. I can't see what I'm typing. The Zoom thing's in the way. Okay, output stream.rb. Okay. Module streaming class output stream. Okay, and now if we run the test, we'll get a different error. Actually, we'll get the same error because I didn't do the right namespace. Streaming. Okay. Now we get wrong number of arguments, which is not surprising because we don't have a constructor yet. So it takes a job and it takes a tab name. Okay. Now if we run the test again, I expect it to pass. Okay. Okay. So
Just
now we
one
can,
thing
uh-huh.
here, I would say that, I mean, this looks quite tightly coupled to job and the tab name. So should we not name streaming jobs tab output stream, because then it just becomes like what it is streaming.
Sorry, say it again.
So like if we look at the line number 13 and 14, like here,
Uh-huh.
this looks like that the class that we have created is for output stream. So it should be able to actually take anything for the output. So unless we are planning to change the parameters to make it more generic, then we have to name the class in a way that it says it's for job and for tabs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hmm, hmm,
Like,
hmm, hmm, hmm.
so either we do that, or like I would rename the class to be streaming in the sum module jobs, and then the class name would be tab output stream. And then you can pass job and tab, and it becomes clear that it's dependent on job and tab.
Yeah. Okay. So I buy what you're saying. Um, let's think for a second. The fact that these are tabs is just kind of an incidental detail. The essential thing is it's a type of what? The two things that this applies to are system logs and tab and test output. It's it's like some aspect of the job, and even that's an incidental detail. It's like, okay, what output are we streaming? The system logs and the test output are both what? It's like they're tabs, but really like the tabs are just what we're seeing it through. What are we seeing through the tabs?
It's logs.
Yeah, but it's the logs of what? I mean, it's okay. Let me say something different. So it's like I want to see the test output and I want to see the system logs. Those are both instances of what? They're like things that I want to see so that I know what's going on. They're like concerns. Hmm. It's the job, it's the test run, and I want to see the hmm. It's like a way for me to keep my finger on the pulse.
Sort of, are you thinking that, maybe you should separate them out a bit more within the code?
No, I'm just thinking of what to call them.
Hmm.
Because, like, as I said a minute ago, like the fact that these appear in tabs is an incidental detail. Like, if I were to rename output stream to job tab output stream, like, I think it's a good idea to make it more specific like that. But I'm not sure that I want to call it job tab output stream because the tab part is again an incidental detail. It maybe doesn't feel appropriate to say that this is the output stream of a tab. It's not the output stream of a tab. It's the output stream of something, and then that output appears in a tab. And I'm trying to think, what is the name of that something that it's a stream of? It's not metrics. Is it telemetry? I don't think it's telemetry. Hmm. I could just call it job output stream. since I feel like I'm kind of stuck, I think I'm just going to go with that for the time being. And hopefully something better will occur to me. But I think job output stream is at least a little bit better than just output stream. So I will rename this file. Okay. Run the test again. Okay, and then here, instead of this, I can say like output. Actually, I'm going to make this match job output stream. Job output stream dot name. And here I can say def name. Okay.
That would fail.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Now let me look at these changes. All right, I think I'm going to commit this. Add job output stream. Okay, test output controller. Um, Now if I look in the job show partial, is there a good way to replace this with job output stream dot name? Like, can we do something like this? Oh, you know what this actually should probably be? Whoops, and I did that wrong. Let's see if my thinking is sound right there. Okay, I'm
So
gonna
you are
commit that.
basically now streaming to just one tab, or basically you're opening connection just for one tab instead of all the tabs.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna cause problems or not because, well, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be okay if you switch among tabs or not, but I will think about that later. Um,
Yeah, I think once you switch the tabs, since it's subscribed to the current tab on that page, and you would not resubscribe when you're switching tab, in that case, you might not get an output for the other tab.
yeah, well, I will write a test for that. Um, okay. Okay. Okay, so here, instead of just replicating what we're doing here, I want to make that connected because this again is an instance of duplication that should be squashed. I'll go to the controller for this. And let's see. Maybe I can actually just do this. So if I do that, then I don't have to mess with setting that in the controller and then passing it between um, multiple views, like through the view and then to the partial. Um, maybe that is good as is. Let's see. Okay. Apparently so.
So just one question. Should we not try not to call models from the views and let the controllers do that? I mean, just a thought.
Well, my question would be, what's bad about that?
I mean, there's nothing bad. That's the, I would say, good part about Rails that you can pretty much call the models from anywhere you want. But usually you don't see models being called from the views.
Mm-hmm.
You have variables which are available from the controller, and then you use them.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, the reason for that is separation of concerns to make everything easier to understand and think about. But in this case, I asked myself which would be harder to understand and think about and work with and all that. And if I have it set in the controller and then I pass it to the view and then from there I pass it to the partial, that's one option. Or in the partial, I can just initialize the value. To me, this seems like a lower cost, seems easier to understand. Okay, so let me open my test output controller. Um, our target here, because I want to dry up everything I can. Um, our target is build details content and then tab name. Okay. So let me think here. This is another piece of duplication. So it's duplicated not only between these two controllers, but also in the partial. Just like the TurboStream name was. And I'm just thinking, how do I want to deal with this? Because kind of to your point, Sahil, um, if we put the name of the element in job output stream,
Mhm.
we're not going to initialize another job output stream here. That would be weird. We'd want to have just one.
So you
Um,
can have job output stream from the controller, and
right.
in line 41 you can say job output stream dot target, and in 48 job output stream dot name, or maybe we can rename name to something else, like
Yeah.
stream
So I'll
name
do
we
that
can
for
call it.
starters. I'll do that for starters, but there's something I think I might want to do different, but I'll do that first because even if we end up doing something different, I think it'll be easier to follow if I do it this other way first. All right. So jobs controller. I can say job output stream equals all this. I'll go like this to make it so it all fits on one. Whoops.
I think you don't need name.
Yeah, good point. Okay. Um, and I can just do this, I suppose.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay. Let's see if our most recent tests passed. They did. All right. So I kind of don't like to have instance variables that go from the controller to a partial and not have them passed in the view, because then it can be a little bit mysterious. It's like, hey, where did this come from? But in this case, I'm not going to worry about it because I think I'm going to change the whole thing anyway. All right, so I'm going to do move job output stream to controller. Okay. Now job show. And so here we can do like, I don't know what we want to call it. Job output stream dot, I don't know, element ID. Okay. Test output controller. Oh, maybe we should call it target. Okay. 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 I don't like to have to keep fuzzy searching, so I'm going to do this. Where was it? Probably jobs. Yeah, there we go. Then I'll also open up test outputs controller. Okay. And also app models streaming, job output stream. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and I didn't even put it here. Okay. Job output stream dot target ID. I feel a little bit weird that it says target and then target ID. That seems kind of confusing. How about we just change it to target? Okay, run the tests. Okay. Okay. Now there's still partial and locals. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's
You can get
see.
rid of interpolation in line 21.
Wait, sorry.
You don't need to interpolate it. It's already the string and it's the same string. So
Um,
like you don't need these three.
oh, ha. Yeah, good
You
point.
don't need to do a string interpolation here. It's already the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that seems to work. Oh, test failure. What do we have here? Okay. All right, well, let's address that before we go on any further. I'm going to stash this. So why did it fail in CI but pass locally? Streaming system test output spec. Okay. Well, it could be for some reason this only fails on CI, but let's see. And that is on it's on the test output spec. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens on this second time. If it passes on the second time, that does not mean there's not a problem, but it'll be information for us. Okay, just because I don't want to sit around and wait, I'll continue with what I was doing before. Okay. Okay, and then we can dry up the locals. Oops. Okay. Now, obviously, if I wanted to, I could just put this whole streaming thing somewhere in this job output stream class, and maybe I will, but my current thought is that doing so would just obscure what's happening. But maybe not. Also, I'm being distracted because this feels kind of pointless now. Um, would it make sense? Job output stream dot broadcast. I don't know, maybe that's actually better. Let's see if that even functions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then we could even do this. Yeah, I think I do like that better. Okay. Let's check on our CI tests. Okay, interesting. It's my first flaky test. Let's see how many times we have to run it in order for that to flake again. Okay.
My question is if we are using the partials method and the locales in the partial method only locally there, do we really need to expose that as methods, or we can just do inline for those in the class?
Yeah, it's a good question. Let's see how that feels.
I think target you still need because target you're using in the as the ID. So you still need to expose the target, but partial and locales you are not using
Oh, yeah,
anywhere else.
forgot about that. And yeah, I do think that's better. All right, thanks for that suggestion. Okay, so now let's open up the system logs controller so we can dry this up. And it should be pretty easy because all we have to do is kill this and replace it with this, but instead of test output, we want system logs. Okay, still very duplicative, but we're duplicating a smaller amount of stuff. Okay, does that pass? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and how's our test doing? All right, we still got some stuff running. Okay. Test output controller, system logs controller. Actually, I'm going to do this. Okay, now we have both our controllers. So we're finding the job, request.body.rewind, and then we're getting the log chunk. And we're updating the job based on the log chunk. Okay.
Why do we need to do this rewind? I'm not sure. Like,
I don't know. Um, let's ask ChatGPT. Wow, that is new and different. Reset the read position of request.body. Let's see if it works without it.
I think it should.
I
I think
got it from ChatGPT.
rewind is probably then required when we are streaming something. So if we want to reread from the beginning,
Yeah, I got that line from ChatGPT. And ChatGPT has a bad habit of coding speculatively. And so that was probably just a case of that. Okay, this passed. This is finished, but okay, that passed also. Okay, and we can watch this test output go, which I want to do because it's just fun. Um, Something that I definitely want to add relatively as a relatively high priority is like a running timer here so we can see where things are at. And by the way, I don't see new stuff coming through here right now, but if we refresh the page, oh, now it's passed. Okay. I wanted to see if there was that bug where if you switch tabs, it doesn't keep updating the streaming. Okay, anyway. Okay, so how do we unify this? Let's actually bring back the tab name. And then we can do this. Okay. And then this can just be, oh wait, not the exact name, exact same, because we need to do send here. Actually, let's not do send. We can get an attribute name, but I forget how. What if
I think if
instead,
you do dot attributes, then that gives you an hash, and then you can use the tab name as the key.
so I can do dot attributes
Yeah.
tab name like that?
No,
Or is it a hash?
no. So job dot attributes gives you a hash with the attributes as key and values as the real value of those attributes. So if you run, I don't know, raise C and you do job dot last dot
Oh,
attributes, you can see the output.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that now. Okay, let's see if the test still passes. It does. Okay, so now we can change this. Okay, and then this can just be identical. Same here. Okay, so now other than the tab name, these two controllers are perfectly identical. Okay, so now let's run the streaming tests. Okay, that passes. Ooh, and this failed. Is it the same test? I assume so. Yeah, okay. This is super interesting. Because one of the features that I want in SaturnCI is is some tooling around flaky tests. But I don't want to talk about that just yet. Let me okay. So do we want to do anything more with this? Um, I think yes, but I'm not sure how. Oh, and you know what? This might make sense to just do inline. I don't know if it's really doing any good to have that as a separate line with a temp var. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So I could try to dry this up even more, but I can't immediately think of how. And like again, I could like have a parent controller or something that these both inherit from. But then what if one of these needs to be a little bit different? Um, like I think the fact that these are identical is just kind of it might be partially incidental. Like these happen to be the exact same, but if one of these changes, I don't know that it's a logical necessity that the other one should change. Also, this isn't a huge amount of stuff. It's a lot less stuff than it was before. And so the cost of this duplication is less than it was before. And also, I'm not sure how to make an improvement. With this job output stream thing, I felt sure that that was an improvement, and I'm happy about that. But with this stuff, I'm less sure about how we might improve this. And so I'm going to leave it the way it is. And then if it starts to hurt later, maybe it'll be more clear how to improve it. All right, but now the thing that we want is the thing we want to do is to address this flaky test. But we're about at time here, so we'll have to go soon. But let me at least start to think about this. The first thing that I usually do when I encounter a flaky test is just to look at the test that flaked. Okay, and it's test output spec 31. Okay, and it's failing because it expected to find new test output content. New test output content? Why new test output content? That is weird. That is really weird. Why new? Doesn't that seem weird? And line 31 is like, that's just this closing parentheses. So do we maybe have an issue where the file system is out of sync or something like that? Okay, spec, streaming system, test output spec. Okay, let's do this. Um, spec, streaming system. Yeah, interesting. All that's here. Oh yeah, because that's oh. Okay, so this is on main. If I go to a different branch, test output streaming. Line 31. Oh, ha! Look at this. What in the heck is happening? That is very strange to me. On GitHub, even though I've been pushing, the content doesn't match. So that is like super weird. And what about on these ones that passed? Um, we're looking for test output streaming. So it must be on the other tab. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So we have shows the new content, shows the original content, shows the new content. Oh, now I am so confused. Okay. Spec streaming. Because just a minute ago, I'm glad this is recorded so I can go and see what the heck I was doing before. Okay, new test output content. Spec streaming system. Okay, so here it is. Oh, I was looking at the wrong test. Okay. That explains why I was so confused. Okay, so this is the one that's flaky. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do binding.pry on this, and then I'm going to run it with the browser up. And I'm guessing there's some kind of a race condition. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, a race condition would actually make total sense. And it may well be that the test is running more slowly on CI than it does locally. Although it seems weird to me that well, yeah, it seems weird to me that it wouldn't wait for it. Okay, but that's my current best guess, is that there's a race condition and that the test runs more slowly on CI than locally. But I want to have a way to be sure that I've made the problem go away. So, all right, 1 second. I'm going to merge this. Squash. Okay. So I want to be sure when I fix it, I want to be sure that it's fixed. But so far, it's only flaked twice, and I don't really have a feel for how frequently it flakes. And so I want to rerun the test suite like 10 times. But I don't want to do that manually. I want to, like I said, one of the things that I really want SaturnCI to have is good features around diagnosing flaky tests. So I want to have like a rerun button and a rerun 10 times button or something like that. So I think that is what I want to do next. All right, so I'm going to wrap up, but I'm going to add a loose end here. So, all right, so it's on jobs show, actually the same one we've been looking at. Okay, so here we have this rerun 10 times button. That is like not going to work because right now it just goes to the same place as rerun. But when I see this, I'll be reminded, oh yeah, I wanted that button that reruns the test suite 10 times. So that's what we'll work. That is what we'll work on next. And then we'll fix this flaky test, of course. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.